Immortality has long fascinated humans. Many people have searched for the secret to living forever for centuries, but it appears that our animal friends have beaten us to it to some extent. Today, we will look at 15 animals that can live after death. Stay tuned for number 1, as this creature just might be immortal. Predatory snakes. Cold-blooded reptiles like predatory snakes, unlike mammals, which promptly die after decapitation owing to a cascading cellular die-off, continue to function for minutes or even hours. It's because snakes' slow metabolic rates allow their internal organs to survive long after their heads have been severed. The author Clifford Warwick claims that while a snake's body may writhe in pain after having its head severed as a reflex, the snake's head will continue to move for a while. When a 20-minute-old severed cobra head bit a Chinese chef, Chef Peng, he died en route to the hospital, proving that snakes can survive after death. Because of this, a snake with its head removed is not only alive after dying, it is still deadly, capable of biting if threatened, able to detect movement, respond to light by dilation and contraction of the pupils, and flick out its tongue to taste the air if enough of its neck is still attached. The tentacles of an octopus. It is well known that octopuses are extremely intelligent. They are not only intelligent, but their tentacles are pretty peculiar. Research has shown that an octopus's tentacles will continue to react to stimuli for at least an hour after being removed from the body. Along with responding to stimuli after death, the tentacles will also attempt to feed a phantom mouth that no longer exists by picking up food. This is feasible because the majority of the 130 million IQ-rising neurons in the animal are found along its 8 tentacles. As a result, the tentacles are capable of functioning without the brain. The octopus's survival instinct is so powerful that the tentacles will still react even if it is put to death before having its limbs severed. Researchers conducted an experiment to verify this, in which they severed the tentacles of dead octopuses, cooled them in water for about an hour, and then tried to probe the tentacles. The tentacles responded. The squid in the Odori Don. We're talking about a Japanese dish rather than a real living thing. The key component of the meal, however, is a headless squid with still responsive tentacles. The phenomena originally became well known in 2010 when a YouTube clip of a headless squid's writhing tentacles after coming into touch with soy sauce went viral. It was called the dancing zombie squid by people. Charles Grisham, a chemistry professor at the University of Virginia, discovered that the majority of the tissue in a recently deceased squid is still alive while attempting to explain the occurrence. The creature will therefore respond to stimuli despite not having a brain. Additionally, even after dying, the muscles of squids retain ATP or adenosine triphosphate. The primary energy source for muscular contraction is ATP. As a result, when soy sauce is applied to the squid, the sodium in the sauce is absorbed by the animal and causes muscle spasms that cause the headless squid to appear to be dancing. Cockroaches. Most people believe that cockroaches are little irritants that need to be removed as soon as they are discovered. That's not a terrible point of view, because cockroaches do present health and safety issues, including the transmission of bacteria and germs and allergens from cockroaches that cause allergies. One cannot not but be in awe of their tenacity, though. Cockroaches, according to scientific theory, can readily survive a nuclear war or any other type of global calamity. Cockroaches can survive after having their heads severed for weeks, which is an even more astounding reality. First off, cockroaches have an open circulatory system with low blood pressure. This is due to a number of factors. Therefore, if you chop off a cockroach's head, it won't bleed to death, but instead will simply seal off the incision by clotting. Second, cockroaches have tiny vents called spiracles that allow them to breathe. As a result, the insect can still breathe even after having its head severed. Third, cockroach spiracles pump air straight into the tissue, unlike human blood, which carries oxygen. Cockroaches are also cold-blooded, which means they can survive on very little food. According to scientists, they can go for weeks without eating. Fruit flies. These flying cockroaches have been shown to survive decapitation for about 8 days, according to scientific research. Fruit flies with headless states have been observed by researchers in genetic labs to nonetheless lead entirely normal lives. For instance, a female fruit fly without a head will still groom herself, walk, and even fly. In addition, a male fruit fly will continue to court a female fruit fly without a head. The headless female fruit fly typically rejects these romantic advances because it sees the man as an alien being. The experiment demonstrated that fruit flies without heads were better able to maintain an upright posture. Fruit flies have a reserved brain and other essential organs hidden in their chests, which allows them to survive this long without their heads. Headless toad. Even large animals like toads can survive after being severed from their bodies, so it's not simply tiny insects that can. In April 2016, while conducting research on newts in a state forest in Connecticut, herpetologist Jill Fleming came upon a toad with a stump for a head. Jill claims that as she and her colleagues sat down to examine the materials they had gathered, a toad kept rubbing against their legs. On closer inspection, they discovered that although the toad appeared to have a healthy body and legs, it was missing its eyes, jaws, nose, and tongue in favor of a little stump covered in smooth tissue and a small aperture where the mouth once was. According to Emily Taylor, a scientist at California Polytechnic State University, even though the toad's head was missing, it likely still had a significant amount of its brainstem. The professor asserts that the brainstem controls a significant chunk of the body's essential central functions, including digestion and heart rhythm. Flatworms. Because they regenerate when cut into pieces, flatworms are frequently referred to as lords of death. This enables them to repeatedly avoid death and live a long time. The planarian flatworm can be killed by cutting it into pieces, but after 3 weeks, each piece will have developed into a full flat worm that is identical to the one that was torn up, according to researchers. The potent stem cells present in the flatworm are the cause of this. Different cell kinds are created when cells divide, replenish, and grow. Moreover, the planarian's body is covered in these cells. Because of this, even if you only cut a tiny portion of the tail, it will still be able to fully regenerate, including a head and all of the other essential organs. The tardigrade. In terms of survival instincts, the tardigrade is a species that rivals the cockroach. Research has shown that this minuscule organism can live for 30 years without food or water at 300-degree temperatures. Tardigrades are nearly immortal, or to put it another way, they live far longer than one would anticipate given these circumstances, which would kill any other species. The 8-legged bacteria known as tardigrades, or moss piglets or water bears, are most commonly found in mossy trees. They may, however, endure in any setting, including mountaintops, deserts, and tropical woods. Even in space, they can endure for up to 10 days. When conditions get too bad, tardigrades go through a pseudo-death process when they curl up and go into stasis, which gives them the ability to endure crazy conditions that would kill any other organism. A study from Oxford University found that tardigrades can withstand several cosmic disasters, including asteroids. Mike, the headless chicken. Typically, a chicken will pass away shortly after having its head severed. Mike, though, lived for 18 months after being beheaded. In 1945, 74 years ago, a farmer was slaughtering his hens in anticipation of market day. In an odd turn of events, he put one of the headless chickens in a box after it wouldn't go down, and when he opened it the next morning, the chicken was still alive. The Olsen family brought Mike to the University of Utah, where researchers conducted a wide range of testing. Many believed that a sizable portion of the chicken's brainstem, which regulates vital bodily processes like breathing, digestion, heart rate, and hunger, was unaltered. Therefore, Mike survived as long as the Olsen family kept feeding him liquid food and drink directly down his esophagus. To this day, nobody has been able to determine why the chicken didn't bleed to death. Mike, the chicken, outlived his expected lifespan and brought in a sizable sum of money for the family. Bees. They are included on this list for a reason. Even if a bee is dead, it can still sting you, just not in the way you might imagine. Dead bees can't fly around and actively strike you. The problem with their sting is that it still delivers venom even if the bee is long dead, which is more critical. A tiny organ that holds the bee venom and a tiny muscle that pumps the venom out are both linked to the sting when a bee stings, leaving it entrenched in the victim's skin. Bees' actions are not controlled by the bee's brain, but rather by involuntary impulses, so it's not safe to pick up a dead bee. Salamanders. Long life and immortality have historically been associated with salamanders. Salamanders possess the amazing capacity to regenerate any body part that has been amputated. Actually, the newly generated components perform equally well, and in some cases even better, than the original components. This is primarily due to a unique protein present in salamanders that promotes cell proliferation. Humans also contain this protein, albeit in much lesser amounts. Frogs. Frogs have been shown to move even after their brains have stopped functioning. The behavior of a frog with its green matter partially intact is actually remarkably comparable to that of a frog with its head completely intact. The most astounding of all is that it will even croak intently if you stroke its back. If you squeeze its feet, it will hop away. If you put it in water, it will swim to the side and climb out. The ability of the reflex reaction, which fires the required electrical impulses to enable a muscle to expand or contract, is what causes the frog's zombie-like characteristics.